this week's presentation is about saints.
Saints.
And it's about one saint in particular, Saint Brigid of Kildare in Ireland. Lovely Saint Brigid here is one of 3 patron saints of Ireland, along with Saint Patrick and Saint Columba, and is also patron saint of quite a lot of other things. I'm just going to do a quick run through.
I would love to hear the things that Bridget is the patron saint of.
County Kildare, babies and infants, blacksmiths,
boatmen, brewers, cattle, chicken farmers, children whose parents are not married, children with abusive fathers, children born into abusive unions, Clan Douglas, dairy workers,
Florida, fugitives, Leinster, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, the MacBraddock family,
mariners, have your own saints.
Midwives, nuns, literally like your family saint, nuns, poets, the poor, printing presses, sailors. That's just mariners. There was I was already deleting like a whole bunch from this list that were just synonyms. Scholars, travellers, watermen.
Oh,
there we go.
So she's the patron saint of cattle. So she's the patron saint of cows, and also the patron saint of chicken farmers, but not the patron saint of cow farmers, and not the patron saint of chickens.
Right, I did my best to, like, it also had her listed as the patron saint of poultry farmers, which again is like the same thing as chicken farmers. So I tried to, there was a lot of redundancies in this list. Saint Brigid is celebrated on the 1st and 2nd of February every year at Imbolc to mark the beginning of spring. This day used to celebrate the Celtic goddess Brigid, goddess of healing, fertility, inspiration, smithcraft, fire, and poetry. But the holiday became Christianized as Ireland was in the 5th century and was adapted to celebrate a saint called Brigid rather than a Celtic goddess called Brigid.
That's very cheeky, isn't it?
I think it's so cheeky.
But it's very Christian. It's very Christian, isn't it?
It's the move.
Classic Christians, eh? Co-opting existing pagan rituals.
I mean, it worked, didn't it? It worked pretty well.
Worked for Christmas.
So, this slide is all about the Hagiography of Saint Brigid of Kildare, and hagiography just means like holy writing, so it's like the legendary biography. So how much is truth and how much is spinning a tale to especially fit in with the Celtic goddess.
Okay.
Is
well,
up
considering that she was basically made up to fit in with this Celtic goddess, I'm gonna guess that maybe none of it's real.
I'm wondering if I think it's fairly, it's plausible enough that there was a real person who was sort of foundational, as you'll discover, was fairly foundational in like early Christianity in Ireland, who was a figure who was like adapted to fit the role. So the earliest written biography of her is by Cogitosus, a 7th century Kildare monk. So she was born in 451 and died in 525, and she's said to have died on the 1st of February, very conveniently the day of celebrating the goddess Brigid.
Very convenient.
She was an early Irish nun and abbess who founded several monasteries of nuns, including the monastery of Kildare. She was born in... So I'm sure that I'm absolutely slaughtering all of these Irish place names right now.
Not even going to attempt it.
I'm doing this presentation especially. I was pointed in this route by a lovely Irish friend called Lorcan, and please correct me in the comments on all these words. Born in Falkirk in County Louth, Ireland. Her mother was Brocha, a Pictish slave who was baptised by St. Patrick, according to legend. Her father was Doch, chieftain of Leinster, who was told by his wife to sell Brocha to a druid when she became pregnant, and Bridget was born into slavery. Around 480, she founded a monastery at Kildare at the site of a shrine to the Celtic goddess Brigid, again very conveniently, where a group of young women tended an eternal flame. So now we get on to what we really want to talk about, which is the miracles.
Yes. Can we make guesses? Can we make guesses?
Please, give me some miracles.
Okay, I think. So she was known for replenishing butter. I think she was able to make sculptures of cows out of butter.
That would be quite impressive because of the legs.
Exactly, right? And that's
They're,
very saintly.
Butter is so soft. You need a cold room to do that. Unless you're a saint, in which case you can do it on a warm summer's day.
What do you think, Rachel? What do you think?
I mean, the other saints that I can think of whose stories I know, basically their miracles were lots of murder. So did it have something to do with lots of murder?
So in order to be sainted or canonized, they look through someone who they want to canonize. They look through their history and try to allocate miracles often, especially in like more recent times, like, you know, it's this quite sort of mercenary looking process where they look over their life and they go, oh yes, someone said she did this, that counts as a miracle, right? But being, you know, patron saint, one of the oldest and best, she's got loads of miracles to her name, so I didn't include all of them here, but I don't recall any that involved murder, unfortunately. But there are some quite wild ones.
What about cow butter?
There was lots of dairy because she was apparently an expert dairy worker and brewer, but not making a cow out of butter.
Not a cow sculptist.
Yeah. So 1, turning water into beer.
Nice.
Presumably with some grain and hops and thyme.
Isn't that how you make beer?
I'm just like, okay, so she was like an expert brewer. I sure hope she did.
I could fucking turn water into beer with enough chances.
She could still the wind and the rain with prayer. She protected a woman who fled to her community from a nobleman who had entrusted her with the safekeeping of a brooch, which he'd then secretly thrown into the sea, and then he accused her of stealing it so that he could take her as a slave if a judge ruled in his favour. But then a fisherman from St. Bridget's community turned in a fish with the brooch in its belly, proving him a liar and freeing the woman. It's that's such a classic legend, like fish turns up with something weird in its belly and it saves the day. Or destroys everything. One or the other.
That's magic, that is.
Yeah.
Oh, there's
Miracles,
more. There's more.
Miracles 2, the Miracler. This one's metal. After Bridget promised God a life of chastity, her brothers were annoyed at the loss of a bride price, or the dowry. When she was outside carrying a load past a group of poor people, some began to laugh at her. A man named Basine said to her, "The beautiful eye which is in your head will be betrothed to a man though you like it or not." In response, Bridget thrust her finger in her eye and said, "Here is that beautiful eye for you. I deem it unlikely that anyone will ask you for a blind girl." Her brothers tried to save her and wash away the blood from her wound, but there was no water to be found. Bridget said to them, "Put my staff about this sod in front of you," and after they did, a stream came forth from the ground. Then she said to Basine, "Soon your 2 eyes will burst in your head." And it happened as she said.
I told you murder.
Well,
That's
I don't know that
murder.
it didn't say that they died. Their eyes just exploded in their heads.
Did she get her eyes back?
I don't even know. There's no mention anywhere else of her being missing an eye. It's just this one story. So I don't know if she magically regenerated it or
Like a lizard.
if she was just, really, really determined. There was another miracle that I saw that was just silly. Like, so someone proposed to Bridget and she was like, I'm committed to God. And then she said, but you should go to the woods behind your house and there will be a beautiful maiden and everything you say to her parents they'll really love and you'll get married and you'll be happy ever after. And then it happened and that was a miracle. She just did a little matchmake, set this guy up with her friend presumably and that's one of her miracles.
Well, when they made Mother Teresa a saint as well, they made up some bullshit for her as well. Because it must be so damned hard for those Catholics to make saints nowadays, considering everything's on bloody Instagram and the like. You can't prove it. Like, you're not going to make Dynamo a bloody saint, are you?
Miracles 3.
More
big
miracles.
Wow. This is the miracle that we're all here for. This is the big one that attracted me to Saint Bridget. A certain woman who had taken the vow of chastity fell through youthful desire of pleasure, and her womb swelled with child. Bridget, exercising the most potent strength of her ineffable faith, blessed her, causing the child to disappear without coming to birth and without pain. She faithfully returned the woman to health and to penance. What does that sound like to you?
That sounds like a miracle to me.
Yeah, I don't think that's possible.
It sounds like she performed an abortion. And I think it's pretty amazing that the patron saint of a country of Ireland, which only legalized abortion in 2018, one of her origin miracles is performing abortions.
Yeah, that's pretty wild, isn't it?
I'm sure.
I think it's cool as hell. And apparently there are up to 4 saints in Ireland who are credited with performing these miracle abortions, basically, in Ireland's history, and it just really goes to show how contextual anti-abortion sentiment is. And this miracle is why the abortion rights campaign, which is where my friend Lorcan has done a lot of volunteering, and the reason that I came across this saint, celebrates her and encourages people to celebrate St. Bridget's Day on the 1st of February. St. Bridget was one of Ireland's first abortionists.
I love it.
So take a moment to celebrate the fact that Ireland now has legalised abortion for everyone.
Yes.
The saint that I was thinking about, her husband was the king, and then he was killed by an opposing tribe, and then one of them wanted to marry her. So she was like, yeah, send all of your best men, I'll marry one of them. And then they sent all of their best men and she had them killed. And then she was like, send your mourners for your best men, and they sent their mourners and she had them killed. And then she was like, okay, I've done enough killing now, you can be my vassals if you want to. So she sent her soldiers to their place and then set all of their houses on fire with sulphur tied to birds' feet.
Oh my god. That's too much.
It was a lot.
It's all of the old times a bit much, isn't it?
That's how you become a saint.
Saints, they do some weird things. There's the guy who skinned himself and walked around with his skin on his arm and stuff.
Well.
Like how if you're like a bit warm on a summer's day and you have a jacket and you just sort of traipse your jacket over your arm.
Oh no.
It's a bit like that, except one of the saints does that with his entire skin.